Banking with Us is brought to you by Flight Connections. This week on Banking with Us, we discuss the role of the Financial Services Commission. How does regulation promote the integrity of the financial industry? I'm Amita Persaud-Webb, and this is Banking with Us. During the mid-1990s, Jamaica's financial sector experienced a period of instability, and the government of Jamaica had to intervene to assist several financial institutions. The FSC was created pursuant to the Financial Services Commission Act to oversee the regulation of Jamaica's insurance, pension, and securities industries. David Geddes, the Director of Stakeholder Engagement, Communication, and International Relation, tells us more.
The FSC, Financial Services Commission, was formed back in 2000, and it came about because there were some problems within the financial sector. Now, these problems touched on liquidity and solvency, and the government of the day decided that it was imperative that there be closer supervision of these entities. So the Financial Services Commission brought together with what was then the Office of the Superintendent of Insurance, the Securities Commission, and I think the Unit Trust. Now, we were empowered to regulate and supervise entities operating within the private insurance sector, the securities industry, and the insurance, private pensions, and securities industries. In terms of the role of the FSC, we are mandated to promote confidence and integrity in the non-deposit taking financial sector, which, as you noted, would be the securities industries and private pensions. Now, in doing that, we have to ensure that the companies and the individuals within these sectors do what they're supposed to do. There are certain guidelines, certain rules. There are certain things for persons such as fit and proper. The owners and the senior managers and certain critical players in the industry have to meet what we term fit and proper. In other words, we don't really want somebody who has been convicted once, twice, three times of any fraudulent activity, theft, things that affect a person's moral turpitude. We don't want those kind of persons handling your money or giving you advice on how to invest your hard-earned money.
The FSC is governed by a board of commissioners, established by law and made up of a chairman and 7 other commissioners.
What I would say first is let's look at the structure of the Financial Services Commission. We are headed by a board of commissioners with a chairman. One of those commissioners is the executive director, who is selected by the other 8 commissioners. And the commissioners outside of the executive director, they would be appointed by the Minister of Finance. So you have that level. Then you have a deputy executive director who would have direct responsibility for the sectors. This would be the securities industries, the securities, insurance, and private pensions industries. And then you have other sectors, for instance, the investigation and enforcement division. That division has a very critical role to play in the mandate of the FSC, because we have to ensure that persons are licensed and entities are registered with us, products are registered with us before they are offered to the public. Now, you'll sometimes see in the newspapers or here on the radio when we are warning persons that a particular entity is not licensed or registered by the FSC. These are what we sometimes call unregulated financial organizations, UFOs, and these can be very dangerous. You'll recall that we have had, at least 2 major incidents of persons investing in these unregulated financial organizations and losing billions of dollars. It had a very deleterious impact on our economy, and we're still trying to recover from that. So we have to be very careful when it is that we take up our money, whether if we put it in an insurance policy. We want to make sure that if you have an accident, God forbid, or your car is stolen and you have a comprehensive policy, that when it comes time to pay, that the insurance company honors what obligation they have. Or if it's health insurance, you want to know when you get that card and you go to the pharmacy to get medication, when it's swiped, you get the discount that you're supposed to get. If that doesn't happen, then you have been putting in money and you're not getting what you're supposed to get. And we have to protect you. So also, they're very vulnerable. For those persons who start early and are saving and investing towards retirement, we don't want, when it comes time for you to retire, that your funds are not there or that they are vastly depleted based on what the expectation was, because it might be that there was some investment that the pension administrators ought not to have done. So we set guidelines and rules for the different industries. For instance, with the pensions, we want to make sure that whatever they invest in is a sound investment, because you will be more vulnerable by the time you reach retirement age when you're expecting that fund. Now, for instance, the guidelines, for the securities industry, some of those guidelines relate to how you conduct yourself, market conduct. For instance, if a product is going on the marketplace, you don't want persons exerting undue influence in trying to get persons to buy that product. For instance, an IPO, an initial public offering. So we have guidelines for how you get that IPO on the marketplace and what you can say and what you cannot say, what you can do and what you cannot do. For the insurance companies, we may also have minimum deposits that are unencumbered to ensure that if the company has to be wound up or has to make settle claims, that they are able to do so. So you don't have a company set up today, there are some claims, next week the company folds and can't honor those claims. So we have an overarching manner in which we operate to ensure that at the end of the day, the users of financial services are protected. We also stamp out any possible insider trading to make sure that there's confidence in the sector.
More when we return. The Securities Act of 2001 provides for licensing, operation, and supervision of entities dealing in securities as well as the regulation of the capital markets. David Geddes illustrates a few ways how this is regulated.
For investors in the securities industry, we ensure that there's what we call a level playing field, for instance, that disclosures must be made, and we also stamp out any possible insider trading to make sure that it's, there's confidence in the sector. And as I said earlier, there are guidelines for what these security dealers can do, and we make sure that the persons in critical positions are what we deem fit and proper to ensure that, we can't ensure that you won't lose money, say if you invest on the stock market, but we can make sure that you are aware of the risks and that the promoters of whatever investment it is, that product has been assessed by the FSC before it is placed in the public domain. So in other words, when you see something opening on the 1st of February and running until the 25th of February, that product, if it's licensed and registered with the FSC, and if it is not, you are not to be investing in it, but if it is registered with us, then we would have analyzed it and looked at the terms of it, and then given a non-objection, and it would be placed in the public domain.
He also explains how each investment product has to be passed by the FSC.
If you have a new policy, okay, let's say you have 10 types of policies that you're sending to the public, and you decide that you want to put out one that will cover something new, right? Not there, no, or even tweaking a policy is going to offer a different benefit. Then you have to notify us and we have to give you a non-objection. We don't allow products to just go on the marketplace, whether an insurance policy, whether an investment product. No, And also, again, as we said, with the private pensions, we have to make sure that, we have the trustees registered, the administrators have to be registered with us. In fact, also, we have approved actuaries and auditors that will do the statements, because every quarter, I think it is, we get financial statements from the companies within these sectors so that we know what's happening with them. We don't want at the end of a year something happens and they said, oh, you could have picked up that earlier. So we get regular reports. We have on-site examinations of the entities operating in these sectors, and we make sure that we spot any weaknesses and have the companies address them.
And what are some tips from the FSC for investors?
What I would tell you straight off the bat for investing is the first thing that you need to know is that the entity and the individual giving you advice, nobody who is not licensed to so do should be giving investment advice to you. It's a breach of our Securities Act. So therefore, that's the first thing. You want to make sure that the product that they are advising you to invest in is registered with the FSC. So even though the person might be licensed and the entity registered, but that product may not be registered with the FSC, that is a no-no. So you want to know that. There are some other things. I mean, when you speak to an investment advisor, that investment advisor should first know what your risk appetite is. And also, critically important is what level of knowledge do you have about investment? Because it's not synonymous. I might decide that I have a very high risk appetite because I want to make a lot of money, but I don't really understand the nuances of investment, so that is a problem. And so therefore, we have to protect those persons who don't have as much knowledge in investing. They have to get more information than a person who is very knowledgeable, is an expert investor. That person may not need as much information. And I mentioned earlier that whole business of I&E, the investigation enforcement, they monitor what is happening in the marketplace. We also have a critical role in terms of anti-money laundering, anti-terrorism funding. We make sure that we examine the market carefully and we get of intelligence from persons in the market about any UFOs operating. Sometimes you will see it on social media going around that, boy, this is a great investment. You can make 20-30% a month. I mean, 99.9 times, that is absolutely does not make sense. What's really happening a lot of times is that persons are inviting you to come in, and then the money they get from you is used to pay persons who were in there before. And then those persons go out and tell persons, boy, I got so much return on my money. But it's not a sustainable model. It's really a Ponzi scheme. So you have the new persons come in to pay the persons who have been in there before. And somebody's going to get burnt eventually.
Did you know you can file complaints with the FSC?
Let's say that you have a complaint in any one of the sectors and you are not able to get it resolved with the company, and you have written to them, you would then make a complaint to the FSC, and I must know that you can call us, but eventually that complaint is going to have to be reduced to writing. It has to be in writing. So we will then tell you the information that we require, any documents that you have related to the particular complaint, and we have a very, very enthusiastic and expert team of investigators that will look into that complaint, will keep you apprised of what's happening with that, how we're resolving the complaint, and then at the end of the day, we'll let you know what our findings are. And let me emphasize, there is no charge for that service.
And David Geddes speaks to the effect of COVID on the FSC fulfilling their mandate.
Basically, the rules remain. We can't, right. And we have to make sure that there is still that confidence that everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing. There may be occasions, though, that you may have some discretion, for instance, with the submission of a report because of what's happening, and we may allow that, extra week or so. That's whenever it's a matter of discretion. If we can, then we do it on a case-by-case basis. Also, we have had a lot of our employees working from home, working remotely, and we are doing our best to ensure that we give the best level of service and also that we keep our staff safe. I mean, those are critical for us, that our staff must be safe and we must fulfill our mandates. One of the things that the FSC is committed to is to strengthening our engagement with stakeholders.
More when we return. The FSC continues to strengthen relationships with stakeholders. David Geddes tells us more.
One of the things that the FSC is committed to is to strengthening our engagement with stakeholders. Our internal stakeholders, we are actually developing a culture charter that looks at how we relate to each other, our level of professionalism, various aspects of the culture that we want within the FSC. And that, in marketing, they say that you must first brand from inside and then take it out. Okay, so we are getting all of that put together, and then that's going to manifest itself in greater customer service to our external stakeholders. Other things on the horizon, we have a pensions handbook coming out for pension administrators that will give persons in one place. They can find a lot of information on the rules for pensions, what you can invest in, how you can invest, who can be a trustee, who can be an administrator, etc. We're also moving to what's known as risk-based supervision, which is where you are really analyzing what it is are the risks that a company may be exposed to and addressing that in a timely manner. And this is usually contrasted with what's known as rules or compliance-based supervision, which is, you have a checklist of rules and you say you must do this, and that, and then you're basically checking it off and making sure the persons are complying with those rules. But nowadays, the Bank of Jamaica, ourselves here at the Financial Services Commission, and leading regulators, financial regulators, are seeing the benefits of risk-based supervision. And we have been very fortunate to be collaborating with the Toronto Centre. That's the foremost expert in risk-based supervision, and they have been working with us, I think, over the past 1.5 to 2 years. And we are little by little rolling it out. And so that's also on the horizon. We have to strengthen our financial literacy also. We have to make sure that and because financial literacy will lead to financial inclusion, and one of the overall objectives is to have persons included in the financial sector. You want a higher percentage of persons banking, having access to credit cards, electronic transfers, etc. So we have to promote financial literacy, and we do this in many ways. We have town hall meetings, we have seminars, and we also do training and sensitization for the licensees and registrants also, so that they know what is expected of them from the FSC and that they can give a better level of service to the public. We also have the Schools Financial Education Program, where we collaborate with teachers in, say, 20, 30 schools every year, and we present a curriculum of financial literacy to the students through the teachers and usually through Junior Achievement Jamaica. And together we ensure that those students, and that has a ripple effect, I must say, on the community, their family, etc., and other students. And they begin to understand how you can use credit, how you can create wealth, how you can plan for retirement, the importance of insuring your assets. When you start to get assets, you must insure them. Not just because the government says that you must insure your car to be on the road, but you should realize that it is important. If you crash, you should be able to get some money to fix the other person's car. So there are benefits to you if your car is stolen, etc. So we don't want person to just think that the only insurance that is important is the one that the government mandates. You have other assets. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't even realize that even if you don't own the home where you're living, you can get insurance for the contents that belong to you. And that, we're in a hurricane belt. And, we need to recognize that we have to protect our assets. So it's very important. You must create wealth for yourself, you must plan for retirement, and you must insure the assets that you have.
How would I know if a product, person, or company is licensed?
You can check our website. Our website has a list of the registered companies, but also call the Financial Services Commission, and we will advise you whether a product and an entity and a person is licensed or registered with the FSC. Because we have a mandate, and a very important mandate. We have to ensure that the financial sector is sanitized, that persons within it and companies within it abide by the anti-money laundering law, anti-terrorism law, also that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing, so that we protect Jamaica, we protect the consumers. Very important. Because it also impacts how we do business and commerce with other countries. Because if you are blacklisted, then you're going to have problems paying for your goods abroad. You're going to have a lot of issues. So we have to make sure that we protect the industry. If you have any doubts about a product or a person, get in touch with the FSC. We want to know, we want to assist you. Also, if you have a group of persons and you'd like us, in this day and age it might very well be virtually, but however, that and you'd like us to speak to you more about financial literacy or the role of the FSC, feel free to get in touch with us. We're more than happy to do a presentation. We speak at service clubs, we speak at neighborhood watches, citizens associations, all different types of groups. We speak to them to make sure that they understand their role, our role, and what the financial sector has to offer for them.
And that's it for this week on Banking with Us. I'm Amita Persaud-Webb, and until next time, please keep it tuned to Business Access TV. Banking with Us was brought to you by Flight Connections.